The abandoned Blackwood Asylum stood on the outskirts of Ravenshade, a town that preferred to forget its existence. For decades, it had loomed like a decaying corpse, its towering brick walls hiding the horrors that once unfolded inside. No one went near it. Not after what happened in 1974. Not after the night of the final scream. Ethan Carter had always been drawn to the unknown. As an urban explorer, he spent his nights sneaking into forgotten places, documenting their eerie beauty. But Blackwood was different. It wasn't just a place. It was a legend. Rumors spoke of tortured souls, of patients who vanished, of something lurking within the walls. The asylum had been shut down abruptly, its staff fleeing overnight, leaving behind rooms still filled with rotting medical equipment and beds where the insane once screamed for mercy. The official story claimed funding had been cut, but the locals whispered a darker truth, that something unnatural had taken hold of the building. Ethan wasn't one to believe in ghost stories. That was until he stepped inside. The air was thick, stale with decay, filled with the scent of mildew and something rotten. His flashlight flickered as he stepped through the massive doors, their rusted hinges groaning in protest. The floor beneath him was damp, the walls lined with peeling paint and faded patient files scattered across the ground. He took out his camera, the red recording light glowing in the darkness. The silence was suffocating. He moved carefully through the hallways, his footsteps echoing. The asylum was too quiet, as if it were holding its breath, waiting. Then he heard it. A whisper. Low, garbled, a voice not meant for human ears. He spun around, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. The hallway was empty, but the air had changed. It was colder now. Much colder. His breath curled into mist, something that should have been impossible in the summer heat. Ignoring the uneasy feeling creeping up his spine, he pushed forward, his camera rolling. He entered the old solitary confinement ward, where the most unstable patients had been kept. The cells were lined with scratch marks, deep, jagged lines carved into the concrete, as if something had tried to claw its way out. Some of the doors had words scrawled across them in what looked like dried blood. "Help me. It hurts. He is here." A sudden thud echoed down the corridor. Ethan's blood ran cold. He turned, his flashlight catching movement, a shadow disappearing into one of the cells. His heartbeat hammered in his ears, but he forced himself forward. As he stepped inside, his camera caught something impossible. A chair moved on its own, scraping against the floor. His fingers trembled, gripping his flashlight tighter. Then the door slammed shut behind him. Panic surged through his veins. He turned, shoving against the heavy steel door, but it wouldn't budge. The air was thick now, pressing against his chest. Then came the voice, soft at first, a child's voice. "Why did you come here?" Ethan froze. The sound came from inside the cell. He spun around. Nothing. But then the temperature plummeted. His breath came in ragged gasps as his camera screen glitched, static flickering across the display. He backed against the wall, his flashlight flickering violently. And then it appeared. A face. Pale, gaunt, its mouth stretched wide in a silent scream, its eyes hollow pits of darkness. The thing stood in the corner, its head twitching, moving in sharp, unnatural jerks. Ethan tried to scream, but his voice died in his throat. The thing lurched toward him, its fingers long and jagged, the sound of bones cracking filling the air. Ethan scrambled, dropping his flashlight, the camera still clutched in his trembling hands. Then the scream came. It was not human. It was something else, something that did not belong in this world. The walls trembled, the lights exploded, and the air rippled with pure, suffocating terror. Ethan didn't remember how he got out. One moment he was in the cell, the next he was outside, running. His breath ragged, his body shaking. His camera was still in his hands, the screen covered in static. Later that night, he uploaded the footage. At first, it showed nothing unusual. Empty hallways, rusted doors, the usual eerie silence. But then, in the final few frames, a face appeared behind him, watching. And just before the footage cut to black, a voice whispered, "You're next." The video went viral. Thousands watched, debated, argued. Some called it fake. Others recognized the raw fear in Ethan's eyes, but Ethan never spoke about Blackwood again. He stopped exploring, stopped filming. He left town, trying to escape whatever he had awakened. But sometimes in the dead of night, when his room was quiet and his breathing had slowed, he would hear it. A whisper in the darkness, a scream just beyond his reach, and he knew. The asylum was not finished with him. Not yet.